Hello, welcome to the Knowledge Share with Dr. Dave podcast. This is your facilitator, Dr. Dave Cornelius. I want to encourage everyone to find their awesomeness. It is a choice. Let's begin your learning experience to achieve your awesomeness.
This is the Agile for Humanity Tucson Meetup webinar series. Today's Saturday, February 15th. And most of us are in Tucson, Arizona, except for my good friend David Martinez, Dr. Martinez. He's in California. I just want to make sure everyone is aware that this is a recorded webinar series. It's shared back with the Agile Alliance newsletter, and they have about 60,000 subscribers globally. It's published on the Knowledge Share with Dr. Dave podcast, where you could find in grokshare.com, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play. It'll be on YouTube and Vimeo. It's also shared on social media channels that include Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Right now, we're live on Facebook. So other people who may join as attendees and listen to our conversation. Just want to make sure everyone is aware of that. I always talk about upcoming events because, I'm just saying I'm a big-time Agilist. I'm all about Agile as a practice, as a lifestyle. And so I promote a lot of the events that are going on around the world or throughout the country. So we have the Global Scrum Gathering in New York this coming May 11th through the 13th. 5 Saturdays in Tucson is going to kick off June 18th through July 28th, and give you more information about that program. And then also we have the Agile 2020 conference in Orlando, Florida, that's coming up in July 20th through the 24th. We'll also have 5 Saturday STEAM programs in California, and we'll provide those dates later on as we get more information about it. About our sponsors, we're sponsored by the Agile Alliance, which is a global organization, as well as the Scrum Alliance. And we're also sponsored by Knowledge Share, which is a consultancy helping people to achieve awesomeness and very much involved with technology and agility, which helps put on this webinar series and give us the tools that we have. Coming up in March, a friend of mine, Aaron Eden, he's the Chief Information Officer from Community Investment Corporation here in Tucson. So he's going to present a topic which we're still negotiating. I saw him last night at what we call the Founders Fridays meeting in Tucson. So he's cooking up a great topic for us for the future on March 21st. The abstract. So the conversation that we're talking about is that I recently found an article in this is the PwC's PricewaterhouseCoopers, titled "The Talent Challenge: Harnessing the Power of Human Skills in the Machine Age." And they're looking at the CEO's top priorities. And, one is innovation at 23%. Human capital, people, is 15%. And 3, digital and technology capabilities is at 15%. And 77% of CEOs struggle to find the creativity and innovation skills they need. And so high school, to me, is the place where, what I call is the springboard where you get into the workforce. Whether you go to college for a few years or you go directly, this is where it all begins. So there are 3 questions that we'll walk through today. Question 1, which is, what are the biggest challenges students face to be ready to work in the 21st century? Looking at if they have the digital and soft skills. And what is the big idea that would help us to shape their readiness for high school students to compete, right, in the 21st century? And, what are a few tangible steps that we could take right now to help make things better? A little bit about me as your facilitator. I'm the founder of the 5 Saturdays program, which is a STEAM program. And we are based in Tucson and California. So I just wanted to give you a bit of insight of why I'm passionate about this, because for the last 7 years, we've been teaching kids how to write programs, teach them about Agile, about entrepreneurship, and how to find jobs. So that's a little bit about the program that has spawned my interest into bringing most of you here today for our conversations. Let's get back here. And we may not have all of our panelists here. They haven't joined yet, but here is the list of our panelists. And so you may have to unmute your mic as I introduce you. So the 5 people who are going to be a part of this panel as I'm facilitating is Stephanie Bermudez, and she's the CEO and founder of startup Unidos. We have Lucy Lebosha, and she will come in when she has some, whenever she gets on. We have Heather Betts, who is an English teacher and Agilista at Hope High School in Phoenix. We have Blaine Young, who is the CTO of Tucson Unified School District, and Dr. Dave Martinez, principal at Early College High School. So let's just start off and give a few, 240 words. We're doing a tweet, right? And so Stephanie, why don't you start with you just give some information about who you are and why you're here.
Sure. My name is Stephanie Bermudez. I've been teaching youth entrepreneurship for 5 years. I currently am the founder and CEO of Startup Unidos, where we offer youth entrepreneurship programming for governments and universities on both sides of the border. We primarily focused on underserved communities, and in Tucson, I am involved with all sorts of things, including Tucson's innovation partners. Startup Unidos is an entrepreneurial service organization, and I have been doing this work, economic development and entrepreneurship, for about 12 years overall. Nice to be here with you all.
Thanks. Go ahead, Blaine.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Blaine Young, and I am currently the Chief Technology Officer at Tucson Unified School District. About almost two years into that role, my wife and I moved to Tucson in March of 2018. I came here from Tulsa, Oklahoma, where I was the Chief Information Officer, but also the Chief Operations Officer at a very similar school district, serving a very diverse population of about 40,000 kids there across that metro area. And I was with the district there just shy of 7 years. Before that, I had a very quick stint for the city of Tulsa as the IT director there. And then before that, I was 30 years in private sector, including energy, health services, travel and leisure, but most recently working for a company called MITRE Corporation, which really focuses on non-compete, high impact, long-term contracts for the federal government, called FFRDCs. Most people are most familiar with FFRDCs like Applied Physics Lab and Lincoln Labs, and the ones that are a little bit closer to the public. Our work was primarily around DoD and some of the civil agencies like the Treasury Department and FAA. But because of my background, I've had a pretty diverse exposure to technology, and I've watched it evolve across 4 decades now in the workplace, and we'll watch it go from being really a support for traditional corporate functions to where it's now, it really is a differentiator in so many ways in organizations. And having spent almost a decade now in public education, I really feel like that there's a little bit of a disconnect between the pipeline of kids coming out of schools and their next step, whether that's in college or it's going on to some other technical career path, or even into the military, where there's often a gap of skills. And I know that there are some bright spots in schools that do quite well, but I believe that there needs to be more continuity in the pipeline coming out of schools.
Excellent. So we'll get more into that details on Blaine. So this is just a good 240-word tweet. Dr. Martinez, my friend, we've been on this path together since 2015. Let's hear from you.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Dave Martinez, principal of Early College High School. I've been at the school for 5 years. It's part of the Newport Mesa Unified School District, and I've been part of the district for 17 years. Early College High School is a college and career preparatory school. It's a dual enrollment high school. Our partners is Coastline College, and our purpose is really to generate students who are college and career ready so they can be citizens of impact in their community. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, and thank you for being a partner.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. So the very first question, and we could jump in and I may interrupt you if you're going too long. So I'm not going to time box anyone to say that you only have, a certain amount of minutes. But if we could stay, if we could stay within 3 to 5 minutes of your responses, maybe we can get through all 3 questions and make sure that we hear all the voices of the panelists. So one of the key things that we want to talk more about is like the biggest challenge students will face to work in a 21st century workplace. And we're right now, as someone who hires, young students or young people into the workforce, we're seeing this great gap in the digital and especially the soft skills that are needed to really function in the marketplace today. So, Stephanie, I'm going to start with you since you're sandwiched between, these two men. So I'll start off with you and hear your voice first.
The biggest challenges that I find in preparing students for future workforce is that we have absolutely no idea what jobs of the future look like. The other problem that we have with preparing students is that universities are still promoting 4-year degrees with the result of potentially starting a career afterwards. And that's also not really what happens when students go through a 4-year education. I think, honestly, we're just not getting the right message across to students. We're not really preparing them, and therefore they're going out into the workforce and feeling a little lost. In my experience working with underserved populations, a lot of our students are first-year attendees of universities. They come from immigrant families, and oftentimes they don't have the support that a lot of successful students have in college to be able to get through. So there is a very high dropout rate for freshmen, particularly here at the University of Arizona. And the workforce high school that I work for here locally 3 years ago implemented a specialized counselor that helps students transition from high school into the university so that there is more support there for them while they try to get through college. We're really proud about our 100% graduation, which is not the normal had these students gone to a different school district in South Tucson. We're also proud that all of our kids go to a 4-year university, but once they're there, oftentimes that it doesn't allow them to be able to succeed while they're going through college, let alone have any guarantee for when they graduate. So we can prepare our students all day, and we do, and we do that also as wearing my role at San Miguel High School, as well as our youth entrepreneurship programming through Voz Frontera and Startup Unidos Youth. But it really is about versatility and allowing these students to be able to hone in on where their strengths lie, really allowing them to be able to identify the passions that they have, identify the things that move them and offer them skills in those areas versus giving them very specific tracks that don't always have an end how we say or how they're marketed.
Awesome. Dr. Martinez, I want to hear from you.
Yeah, Stephanie hit on some really key issues. So, early college, high school, we're in Costa Mesa, so we're really close to the beach. And I think sometimes as educators, we're not hitting the wave. We're not surfing the wave of what's coming at our students with the 21st century. We always tend to be behind it. So as I mentioned, what we've done here at our school, and it's starting to happening at schools, and I'll say in my community, is that education is beyond the walls, and we've done a really good job of really doing college prep and saying what are the A through G requirements, but there really has been a lack of CTE weaved in for students, having access to where the industries that are out there. Field trips that are now just not restricted to just colleges, but we also get our students out to the fields and bring people onto our campuses to talk to our kids, and it starts really early on. So it's more of just supplementing what's happening at our schools with some of how do you navigate, how do you first of all find out what are you interested in, and start exploring that and weaving that into the curriculum. So one thing that's out there is the achievement gap, but there's also an accessibility gap that exists with some of our students and families not having access to those sort of portals and those opportunities that are there. And we bring those opportunities here at Early College High School because we're about 65 to 70% students that are coming from socioeconomically challenged situations, first-generation college-going students. On top of that, it's also the skills. And I actually struggle with the term soft skills. I don't think there's anything soft about them. I think they're elastic skills. It's knowing how to be critical thinkers, being able to collaborate, being able to communicate, being able to create. Those are the 4 C's that we really weave into our lessons. And, you know, as a staff, not only here at our school, but at other schools I work with, it's weaving those types of skills and how you basically deliver instruction so kids can have the ability to develop those quote unquote, what I call flex skills. And then last but not least, I mean, digital skills, what you need is a lifelong learning event. You have to hone those and you have to keep current on that. And that kind of goes back to my illustration of the wave. The wave is always moving and it's always going to be coming up on the beach, but you got to make sure you're on the board surfing that wave and staying current with that. So as educators, we have to adopt that mindset. What was working now and what may be out there now, we're no longer in an age of we're developing students that be great industrial revolution workers, but we're not in the industrial revolution anymore. We're in a digital age and it's constantly changing. It's global and it's being in front of that so we can prepare our students for what they're going to be facing because we have a pretty good idea of what's going to be out in front of them. And that's what we owe it to our kids to be able to provide them those experiences.
Well, thanks, Dr. Martinez. Hey, Blaine, you want to jump in? Hey, thanks for joining us, Heather. Yay. Good to see you.
I had some technical difficulties.
All good. It's all technology. So let's hear from you, Blaine. You know, what are the biggest challenge students will face in the 21st century?
Well, I kind of drifted into pipeline before when I was doing the intro, but I do agree with everything Dr. Martinez just said. I think a lot of those focus areas are really important. I think that a rounded student includes both the skills that get into the space of critical thinking and to be able to collaborate and to communicate, to be able to plan and lead through project management and things of that nature. And I think that approaches like project-based learning and those kind of centric classroom focuses that really help develop the whole student will definitely help with that. And we're seeing lots of bright spots across the nation and school districts in that regard. But I'll go back to what I was saying before, and I think at the end of the day, we're preparing students to enter the workforce. And so that means that we're preparing them to go into an environment that has a unique set of needs that also is constantly moving and changing as companies innovate. And to me, I feel like that there needs to be more of a connection between those environments and school districts and even higher ed, where there's lots more direct interaction of whether it's programs are more like internships or just literally advancing and stretching the classroom to corporate environments so that there's more of a commitment from the corporate environments that need students to be able to step out of educational settings and into those environments. And I really think there's a metamorphosis that needs to go on. Some companies do a great job at that, but I think as a nation, if we're going to be able to compete globally, if we're going to be able to prepare our workforce for the next generation, we've got to go back and retool our whole society so the corporations are really stakeholders of this and not just recipients. And I'm talking about whole scale, not just the cases that we can point to where corporations do a great job with that. And I would say the same thing for public sector, because I realize everything's not focused on just a corporate environment or even other types of nonprofit environments. I think there's a real opportunity there, and we've got to figure out how to foster that and then to sustain it.
Thanks, Blaine. So Heather, let's hear from you. And Dr. Martinez, if you get a chance, if you could turn your camera on so we could see your wonderful expressions, would be awesome. So go ahead, Heather.
I was nodding my head through most of what you were saying, Blaine. I agree. We need to give our students a lot of forward thinking and a lot of resources to help them in the workforce in the 21st century. Things are changing, and traditional education is not going that way, and it's not helping kids. We need to give them a lot more autonomy and a lot more ownership of their education. And I feel like I'm doing a lot of really cool things with Scrum and Agile in my classroom this year, and I'm seeing a lot of really amazing, awesome things with the kids and the transformations that they're going through with regards to their education and taking ownership of their education. And they're facilitating, they're learning. I'm just there as a guide, and they're taking over what they're learning and reading short stories that they pick, reading newspaper articles that they choose. And I think that's helping them be more independent and be dependent on themselves. And that's boosting their self-esteem, their self-confidence. They're becoming more aware of themselves as far as, you know, who they are as individuals. And that will only help them in the workforce. That will only help them to be better employees because they know themselves, and they can take that ownership and apply that in other situations.
Well, thank you so much. But Heather, why don't you just give we're doing a tweet, 240 words, your background, please.
Okay, will do.
Come on, I'm listening for you to verbally tell us who you are.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna try.
You can literally tweet when you're done.
Yeah, no, that's not gonna work. I am a 9th through 12th grade ELA teacher at an alternative ed high school here in Phoenix. Excuse me. I teach English language arts. I have a variety of ages. It's alternative ed, and it's a charter school, so a lot of kids are doing like credit recovery. I started doing 2 classes a day of direct instruction using Agile and Scrum methodologies. It's going extremely well. I am so empowered by what my students have to offer and their insights every single day. It's awesome. I would not have been able to do this by myself. I have a couple of really good friends, Dr. Dave and my friend Wendell Boggs, who's listening. Hi, Wendell. And they are very helpful resources, and a good school district that's giving me a lot of support. Currently, I am going for my pre-candidacy classes. I'm actually here right now in my pre-candidacy class for national boards.
Nice, congrats.
Thanks.
Good. Let's move on to question number 2, and I am going to go ahead and fix something here. You know, that's the one thing about being an agilist. It's okay for us to make mistakes, and make sure I'm sharing my screen here. Yeah. Am I sharing? Because we're out. Okay, cool. We're good. All right. I meant to compete, not to complete. So they'll make that corrections really quick. You know, what's the big idea that would help shape the level of readiness for high school students to compete in a 21st century workplace? And anyone could jump in and go. So let's just go ahead and do that. Who wants to go first?
I'll go ahead and jump in.
Okay.
You can see me now. I can see.
Yeah, hey, we can see you for sure.
All right, very good. So I'm going to go back to my ocean analogy. I tell people you need to have the right fleet of ships for the students. You got to make sure they have access to internships, externships, apprenticeships, and mentorships. If you have that in place for the students, and again, it goes back to bringing the community members onto your campus so they can speak to the kids and they come in and provide those opportunities for our students, that is huge for our kids. And like I said, it's beyond the walls of the classroom. It's providing that access for the students, because some of the students actually grow up in that bubble and all they know is what's happening in the classroom. and they have some sort of a sense, but you bring that in. One other thing that I do for our school district is I'm also the AVID district director. And AVID is Advancement via Individual Determination. And one of the programs that we have here is called Road Trip Nation, where it's actually videos that are produced by a local company actually based in Newport Beach / Costa Mesa, where they interview folks about the skills that you need and what was their journey as they went through college and as they went through all those different shifts that I talked about in order to get to where they were. And these are people that are in our community, so people that they can link to, same background that they had. And a lot of these individuals were also first-generation going students, college-going students that are going to basically paving the way for a lot of the kids that they're going to be experiencing. So I'm a big believer in AVID, which is also becoming global. CTE I already mentioned, but it's more of just a lot of the hands-on, and I'm encouraged to see what the instruction that's happening in the classrooms that are helping these kids be able to navigate and make that education relevant. If you can make it relevant to what are the opportunities that are out there, you know, that's a huge thing that you can do. So that's where I stand by on that.
I'll go next. Dr. Dave, I am not in a traditional classroom and have not had much experience working in a traditional classroom. A lot of the youth development work that I do is extracurricular, after school, and the students aren't voluntold to show up. They actually want to be there. And when I can capture them to participate in one of the programs, the work, of course, that I offer is in providing a youth entrepreneurship curriculum and opportunities for them to intern. But more importantly, I focus on the student and on the person. I'm a millennial, and it wasn't until I was in my 30s that I realized that that I really just kind of honed in the power that I have just by numbers. You know, everybody followed the baby boomer generation, and the millennials are higher numbers than the boomers, and Gen X is even larger than millennials. And nobody's really talking about the changes that need to happen out there. I honestly believe that in order for youth to be able to succeed in the 21st century, it takes us all coming together as a community for them to hone in their purpose and actually recognize where it is that they stand in the world and all of the non-traditional opportunities that need to be created. We need to empower more students to innovate and to recognize the world, the land, the places in which they already stand. There is change to be had everywhere, and as technology speeds up, I can sense that we all work with underserved communities. These communities are going to struggle more than anybody else, and where there are challenges, there are solutions, and there are opportunities that can be grabbed. And I think more of those conversations need to be had with students, where they're honing in and tapping in on their personal passions and moving forward in the world with purpose, and just giving them the right tools and allowing them to be able to connect with the right people to be a part of that change. And I've been doing this for quite a while, and I see that that's what students want. And I see the transformation of the students when you're able to give them those things. They feel like they could do anything versus feeling stressed out about figuring out one of the tracks that have already been preset for them where they don't always identify.
Yeah, this is really getting to the heart of what I really believe is a non-traditionalist in education, that in terms of what Dr. Martinez said and Stephanie just shared, I totally agree with everything they said. And I want to use an example that I recently saw to kind of illustrate that. I was at a convening in the Phoenix area recently where students were actually leading a session where, and it was actually Girls Who Code, and so it was a coding focused session. But what they talked about was not just that. They talked about a program that they did with the Cisco Corporation, where Cisco had basically put in place the ability for all of these students to go to a cybersecurity camp that they had stood up for them, so that they could be exposed to things in other domains of technology besides just coding. And they were able to build networks, and they were given scenarios of different types of forensics that they needed to do to be able to troubleshoot and understand cyber attacks, and you know, which is a huge domain right now across the globe. But the other things that came out of that, of them working together as a team, and being able to triage together, and actually reach back and get some help when they needed it from escalation points that they had established for them, was just wonderful to watch. And if you think about a company like Cisco, you know, if they just had the ability to replicate that time and again, and then so many like them, then all of a sudden we're creating this new ecosystem where kids can learn as a normal part of their learning process, and explore and understand if this really is the path they want to go down for their career, or is it something else. And the more that they can kind of have those kind of experiences and be able to sample, the more likely they're going to be aligned with a successful path for them, and know what their options are. But if all corporations started just building that into the fabric of who they are and how they hire, every corporation has a human resources department, and you could walk to any of them, and they're all going to have an EAP program. They're all going to have programs, you know, for equity, and they're going to have lots of different things that they do, but they don't all have a program that creates an environment where the next generation coming behind can come in and explore and learn. And I think we need that kind of revolutionary change to be able to create opportunities for us kids to really, as Stephanie said, with a community involvement in education that really is going to create an environment where kids can succeed and taking the next step after traditional high school.
I think it's you, Heather.
Oh, sorry. I think everybody pretty much said exactly what I would say. The only thing that I would add, and this is more of just a classroom setting piece, is giving them the ability to fail, and teaching them that it's okay. And not just, I'm not saying fail like, I don't know. I had a thought and it's like gone. But giving them the opportunities to succeed, but also to try and then realize that they weren't doing what they need to do and try again and learn from that. Those opportunities to learn those things, those skills, because that is important also. I think a lot of our kids don't come in with those experiences, and they need to have those experiences before they go and join the workforce.
Well said. Very well said. Great big ideas. And to our third question, we want to look at a few tangible steps that we could take now that will help, right, to help to move the students forward in terms of being able to be ready for the workforce. Even when they come out of college, because I see a lot of students coming out of college and they're just not there yet. And so, you know, what are a few tangible things that we could do now to help, whether it's through our communities, through our high schools, through our colleges? What are the ideas that you have?
Well, I mean, entrepreneurship is the solution to everything as far as I'm concerned. Entrepreneurship allows students to be able to creatively come up with solutions and develop their own opportunities instead of expect one. It also removes us wishing that corporations would all of a sudden transform and allow these new environments for our students to thrive. But it might take just as long, if not longer, to convince corporate America to change the way that they've always done things in order to be able to adjust for this new workforce. So the biggest solution in my mind is just allow students to be able to figure it out on their own, regardless of what they decide to take on at a university, or whether they decide to go to trade, or whether they decide to take some other technical training that suits them in order for them to be able to get a job. The answer is entrepreneurship, and we should be teaching our students more of that and less of expectations for a traditional path or expectations from corporations or any other old type of way of doing things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. When I graduated from high school well over 30 years ago, we had a conversation in our economics class about what was going to be the wave of the future. What was the United States going to be really good at? And I remember the teacher saying it was going to be information systems. We're going to be the leader in creating something. And at that time, we had no idea it was going to be the internet. It was just going to be able to provide information to people at a moment's notice. And I think what's happened is we've been so conditioned, and our kids have been conditioned, and even their parents, in growing up in an age of finding out the answer in a blink of an eye without having to muddle through and go through the process of trying to problem solve it and just tell me what the solution is to this, or just give me the answers quickly. There's no research, no exploration. And it seems like that's where we've been conducting our business for the last 25, 30 years. And, I heard about, struggling, and I'm all for that. In fact, that's just kind of that growth mindset that we want to teach our students, that it's okay to fail. I mean, I got a book on Edison's life on my bookshelf there, and I always tell people, that guy failed the most. And look where he's at. He could not get to the right answer until he failed and failed, but you didn't see it as failure, as a doom. It was, okay, it's not done that way. Let's find another way. It's okay to be creative and explore and just, grit on through it. So it's really letting students know that it's okay. And I would even say that in our school system, in the traditional school system, we've also done a disservice on how we grade our students. And sometimes how they interpret a grade is an F is an F, and I never refer to an F as an F. I call it a one-legged A. And I tell our students, listen, you got one leg up, you just got to work on the other one. And, it's just a progress monitor. So if you do that, I think it puts that student in a frame of, okay, I had a hiccup. That's all right. It's just a little speed bump, but I can recover. And if you really genuinely believe in that, and your staff believes in that, they'll, your students will actually start to thrive. They will not think they're deep in the dumps. And last but not least, I am actually the one traditional set of values I really do believe in is reading, writing, and arithmetic, the 3 R's. And if you can progress monitor the students through, can they critically read? Can they write in different formats? Can they problem solve with math? And you monitor our students all the way up through while they're in elementary school and high school. Those progress monitor grades that we give our students are actually, I think, a better set of tests right now to determine college readiness than they've ever been before. And I'll speak for the state of California at least. We're starting to see data that once they get to the 11th grade and they're taking these tests, it's really truly measuring, are they college ready? And if they aren't, where can you diagnose in 1 year to help them, and then actually better plan for them as to what their outlet for our education should be.
Well, I'll go next. I think that these ideas of fostering innovation in the classroom and creating safe spaces for students to learn and yes, fail, but to use that as an opportunity to fail forward, I think are excellent ways to help them prepare for the workforce. I will go back and just, because it's been kind of my theme, is to talk about being, I guess, proactive in engaging the community. I think as the education environments, we have to lead. At corporations, they are always retooling themselves. And I think that we've just got to be more the initiators of going out and engaging them. I'll speak for my role at the Tucson Unified School District. I'm starting to do that with different networks that I have on behalf of the school district and the regional assistant superintendents, because everybody is just so laden with everything they're trying to get done in the delivery of instruction. Somebody's going to take the first steps. So starting to build the opportunities for kids to explore and learn a little bit about the types of jobs that they might enter into, that are tech-centric, but also require a lot of these other skills that we're talking about. And I think that really school systems at large need to, start being a little bit more innovative in how they engage the communities and then what's going on in the traditional approach of often letting the communities come to them. And that's just not going to happen. So we are going to have to lead on the education side and reach out to the communities and be the ones to kind of forge those paths.
I love Dr. David Martinez. I liked what you said about the F being a one-legged A.
Yeah, that was good.
I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
I had a story at the beginning of the year when I first started doing Scrum and Agile in my direct instruction class. And I gave the kids an assignment. And I always like to start off ELA and rip off that Band-Aid and just jump right into theme, which is like very difficult. And give them a lot of like background, obviously, and we watched some videos and we watched some clips from Finding Nemo because I liked that movie. And we figured out what theme was based on just what we saw from the clips from that movie. And I gave them their stories. And I had a girl come up to me and she said, well, I think the theme for this is, you can't always take this for granted, whatever it was that the story was. I can't remember right now. But, and I said, yeah, that's the theme. And this is the theme. And this is the theme. And she was looking for me to say, yes, that's right. But I wasn't going to give that to her because it's your opinion, the theme that you take out from the story, the author's message. And I guess what my point is that, kids they're looking for us to tell them the right answers, the quick fixes. And they need to develop that sense of just finding those things on their own. And what's right for them might not be right for somebody else. They come to their learning naturally. The 12-month-old might be learning to walk at the same time an 18-month-old might be learning to walk. So we need to realize that they're not all square pegs fitting into, the round hole. They're all different sizes and they come to their learning at different times. And I think we're starting to look at that and starting to see that. I think these innovative opportunities, like Stephanie said, the entrepreneurship, we need to have them have more experiences outside of the classroom, and that shows them more of what the real world is like.
That was really good too. So as we come to the close of our webinar, I just want to say thank you, but I would like you guys to, and gals, I keep saying guys, I just say guys and gals, to probably give a closing note. Something that maybe is a takeaway from today, or something that is an add for today. I know you've added a lot of great insights in our conversation thus far, but I would love to hear, one last thing from each one of you before I go ahead and plug 5 Saturdays. So feel free to jump in.
I'm happy to go first. So I would like to inspire more adults to stop telling young people what to do, to stop talking at young people and getting to know them, to stop telling them that they can't do anything that's worthwhile until after they're 18 or only if they go to college. Young people are ready far before we give them credit for. And we start honing into our internal compasses and passions somewhere around 9 through 11 years old through the work that I've done. And we need to believe them. We need to allow them more opportunities to be able to explore themselves and to learn and to stop the misconceptions that others have of what middle school or junior high or high school students are truly capable of. Because when they turn 18, we expect them to just go out into the world and be adults and be mature and figure it all out and know exactly who they are, when all of the years prior to that, they haven't really been given those opportunities. So I'd like to charge more people to listen more carefully to young people, to trust that they know more than what we think that they do, and to take on a young person and mentor them. and to do that over and over and over again.
Yeah, I'll go next. Yeah, so we've got the slide up of 5 Saturdays, and it's a program we've had here at Early College High School, and those are a few of my seniors there in the pictures. You know, I'm a believer of project-based learning, and anytime you can weave it into your curriculum that you have within the school year, it shouldn't be seen as separate. The experiences we're talking about, entrepreneurship or putting students in a context where they're working as a team, whether it's cybersecurity or doing coding or even esports. They're all giving them opportunities that are going to stretch their ability to talk about the 4 C's that, or to practice the 4 C's that I had mentioned earlier. And most important, and we brought this up, is bringing the community into the schools and creating that partnership. It's developing those connections. When those connections are built and you have a young person that can have a connection and identify with someone in that field of interest, it's going to build their confidence. It's going to build their ability to capitalize on the opportunities that are out there. And then last but not least, I always play on words, and that's the way I am, but I can't stand the word can't. I tell people, hey, listen, the word can't is just the word can with a kickstand on it. You know, we all have to learn to ride a bike and, you know, balance ourselves, and then we can remove that apostrophe in the T, and then you can. So, you know, you're almost there. It's just a not yet approach to what you need to do, and just got to press on with it.
Lovely.
Dr. Martinez, I want you to come up and teach all of those little word things that you have to us in Phoenix, because I need those in my classroom.
It drives my 2 kids nuts, but okay, I may take you up on that offer.
Yeah, that would be awesome. We need to do more of that, and the kids' eye roll, I can already see it and hear it.
Yeah.
I agree with a lot of what you said and a lot of what Stephanie said. I think giving our kids, all of kids, every kid, everybody, the opportunities to explore outside of the 4 walls of the classroom. Any of those experiences, all of those experiences are good things, and they can see different opportunities for themselves in different workforces, in different job markets, and that all helps build our kids to be 21st century learners in the workforce.
Well, for my part, first off, I'm going to go back and replay this just so that I learn all Dr. Martinez's quick wits. Those are going to come in, and I'm sure that's just scratching the surface. But truly, I want to thank Dr. Dave and the panel for great insights. You know, in the CTO role, very often, much of my focus is on delivering technology services that work in the classrooms. But I'm always inspired and really energized when I listen to the ones who are really delivering the education and instruction, because the whole reason I'm in education as opposed to private sector is because I believe in the work. But this just has re-energized me to go make sure that I am ferreting out opportunities for our kids and working with our regionals to bring the opportunities to explore and to learn and even fail, and to learn from the failures so that they can succeed. And so to me, I think this has been a great investment of time this morning. And I look forward to going back and sharing with the superintendent's leadership team what we learned.
You know, I'm super grateful and thankful that you guys have given your time, and gals have given your time today. I've partnered with each one of you in some way or the other, except for Blaine. You're like new to my community, which is awesome, which gives us a chance to connect. But I would love to see that we go forward and start maybe creating a forum, whether it's twice a year, 4 times a year, where we could come together and bring others into this conversation, so that we could start looking forward to how could we use all of the talents that we do have to make a difference in the lives of high school students. That's where my passion lives. I live in a corporate space, And I think it's important for us to come back and bring our talents back into the high school students and create a community for that. And that's what we do with the 5 Saturdays program. So, every summer I recruit a bunch of industry professionals to bring their talents back to the high school students and teach them to build software, teach them entrepreneurship. We use Agile as a baseline for everything that we do, and also to teach them job readiness, because you learn how to code, you learn how to be an entrepreneur, while you really need to learn how to communicate and use those skills and bring them forward into the workplace. So, I'm grateful for your time today. Please learn more about 5saturdays.org. We always ask the people to donate because it's a nonprofit organization, and everything we bring in, we actually give back. As you can see with Dr. Martinez could attest to this, that, we make sure that all the students who come to our program, there's no barrier to entry, right? And so everything they need for those, I call it 5 Saturdays, and he gives me a hard time about it because it's actually 7 Saturdays, because we have an intro and an award Saturday. So it's 5 core Saturdays, and everything they need to be successful in a period of time, we make sure we provide that for them. So I look forward to partnership with each one of you in the work that we're doing. And perhaps we could start creating more of a bigger community. And that's why I have these webinar series, especially once a year, but maybe we may uptick for twice a year. Maybe we'll do something again in the fall and invite others to come in and have this conversation. So with that, if there's anything left to be said, we could say it. Otherwise, I just want to say thank you so much for your time today. Anything left to be said?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dave. You can count on me to help you with 5 Saturdays.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Martinez, I'm going to come see you this summer.
Oh, very good. I'm looking forward to it. I just want to thank Blaine, Heather, and Stephanie for being part of this. It was quite enjoyable.
Yep.
Thank you.
Hey.
All right. Thank
Have
you.
a great
Enjoy your
Saturday,
Saturday.
everyone.
Yep.
Bye.
Ready. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.